Alright, for this video we want to go through a sample form 1040X for the 2023 tax year. And in this scenario we're going to have a taxpayer that needs to file an amended return to correct the amount of long-term capital gains reported on his original return. So we've got the 1040X here, which is 2 pages long, and we've also got the amended 1040 after we make those changes. We've also got the original tax return as it was filed, so we'll have a look at the mistakes that were made. And then we've also got one slide here covering some background on these amended returns, and then more details on the fact pattern. So when you have to make changes to your 1040, we're talking about either making filing an amended return or a superseded return. So amended tax returns don't replace the original filing, but they will correct for an error or an omission on the previous return. So the original return still stands in the system. Now these amended returns can be filed almost any time, but there are limitations that apply, statute of limitations that apply with respect to refund claims. So if you're trying to file a amended return to get a refund back from the IRS, that claim has to be submitted within the appropriate windows, or else the claim is barred and the IRS just keeps your money. Now, the superseded return option, this is a little different from an amended return. So superseded returns actually replace that original return completely. So it's not an amendment or a correction. Now, superseded returns have much tighter filing deadlines. So they have to be filed after that original return is filed, but before the original filing deadline, including extensions. So if you need to file a correction to a return, if you're within the original deadline, you can do the superseded return route. If not, you got to file an amended return. So let's have a look at the fact pattern here, and then we'll look at that original tax filing. So in our fact pattern, we've got John Taxpayer. He's a single filing taxpayer, works as a consultant for a Florida-based company. He timely files his 2023 Form 1040 on April 5th, 2024, and he did not submit an extension request. All right. Now in 2017, so many years back, he purchased shares of Name of Stock Inc. for $9,400. Then John switched custodians in 2020 and transferred all of that stock from custodian A to custodian B. In 2023, so the current tax year, John sold all of his shares for sales proceeds of $17,950. Now, because John transferred the stock from the previous broker, the new custodian did not have any cost basis information. And this is often something that happens when you transfer stock between custodians. You often have to tell the new custodian what your cost basis is. And so because he didn't let them know, the basis on that consolidated Form 1099 is simply zero. So the custodian isn't going to make any assumptions. They're just going to leave it blank or report it as zero. And so the total gain on the 1099 was the full $17,950. And so when John prepared his return, he forgot to look at that closely and fix it. So he's got to file the amended return and get that issue fixed. So if we have a look at the original return as it was filed, if we go down to the 8949 here, so we've got long-term transactions, and we're marking box E for these are items where basis wasn't reported to the IRS. And we can see the transaction down here, Name of Stock Inc., bought in 2017, sold in 2023. They're the sales proceeds, but notice how the cost basis is totally blank. And so all of this is being reported as a long-term capital gain. So this is what John needs to fix on his amended return. All right, so if we have a look at the 1040X, so we've got the name, social security number, and address for the taxpayer. Up here you want to enter the year that you are amending, so it's a 2023 amendment. He's a single filing taxpayer, and now we populate columns A, B, and C. So column A are the original amounts as they were reported on the return. So any items that you see here on lines 1 through 11, whatever was originally reported, transfer over to column A and just move on down the list. So we'll need things like the adjusted gross income for the taxpayer, right? We need the amount of any kind of adjustments, the standard deduction, taxable income, and then we need the amount of tax calculated on the taxable income, as well as any kind of withholding or estimated payments that were made. So if we look at the return, we have the AGI from the original return. He claimed the standard deduction. We had taxable income of $95,795. Line 6, the amount of tax, $14,673. You should enter on the line here how you calculated the tax. So because John has long-term capital gains and qualified dividends, he's using the qualified dividend capital gain tax worksheet, right? So it's not just the Form 1040 tax tables. We have to use this worksheet to calculate the amount of tax. All right, so once all those values are inputted, then we input the values that are the correct numbers, right? So if we have a look now at his amended 1040, after those changes were made, the things that remain the same are, of course, the wages. We didn't make any changes to this other investment income here. What has changed is the net amount of capital gain. So capital gain of $14,190 causes a reduction to your total AGI. Standard deduction remains the same. Taxable income drops, and so the amount of tax calculated drops as well. So go to the, let me go back to the 1040X. So we would input the new numbers. So AGI dropped to $100,245. Standard deduction remained the same. Taxable income was reduced by the $9,400 as well. And so when he recalculates his tax using the capital gains tax worksheet, I'll jump to that really quickly so you can see that. I won't go through this in too much detail, but this is the qualified dividend and capital gain tax worksheet. So he populates all the fields here to calculate what is the new tax on all of his taxable income using the capital gains qualified dividends tax worksheet. All right. So once all those values are recalculated and you have your new tax liability, $13,263, that is a reduction of $1,410 from the original balance that you owed. So finishing the rest of the form, again, there's no changes here to the withholding. No changes were made to estimated payments or credits, right? We're just changing the net amount of long-term capital gains as reported on the 8949, right? So all we did was change these amounts on the 8949, right? Everything else is the same. We're just inputting the new cost basis to get the new adjusted long-term capital gain for this sale, and then ultimately the total, right, for long-term capital gains. So once all those changes are made, line 18 is the original amount of refund that he received. So on the original return, we can see here on line 35A, he received a refund of $3,827. So that's reported there. Subtract line 18 from line 17. And so we're left with $14,673. Now, because we're getting a refund, line 20 is blank because we're not actually changing anything to owe taxes. We're getting more money back. So line 21, if line 11, column C, is less than 19. So line 11, column C up here is less than 19, which it is. Subtract the difference, and this is the overpayment on this filing. So $1,410 is the federal tax refund that he's going to get refunded to him by making these changes. All right, so that's page 1. Now, part 2, we have to provide some additional information on the changes, right? So definitely don't leave this blank. Input something to make it clear what changes are being made so the IRS knows, okay, whether or not that these should be processed. So taxpayer is filing an amended 1040 for the 2023 tax year. The amended return corrects the adjusted basis of stock sold in 2023. On the original 1040, the taxpayer reported the sale of Name of Stock Inc. on 8949 with gross sale proceeds of $17,950, a cost basis of 0, and long-term capital gain of $17,950. The correct stock basis and long-term capital gains are $9,400 and $8,550 respectively. So total long-term capital gains decrease by $9,400, resulting in a tax reduction from $14,673 to $13,263. All right, so just lay it all out. And then what I also like to do is include the new changed return and then just stamp it or put a watermark that says as amended. So the IRS agent reviewing this can look at the changes that were made on the 8949, the Schedule D, and so they can follow the numbers and see how it is you're arriving at these changes. All right, and then of course it should be signed, dated, sent in to the IRS. Amended returns can actually be e-filed now, which is great. So go ahead and get this submitted. Remember to be cognizant of those statute of limitations, and you should be able to get a corrected return in and get your refund. So hope that was helpful. Any questions, certainly leave a comment below. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.